Hi everybody, this is Bob with a video series on chord progressions for songwriters. Now this is a huge topic with lots of material to cover, so I'm going to break this down into a 5-part series. Today we'll take a look at a little music theory, but don't worry, this is going to be like first grade math, so if you can count from 1 to 8 and you can say your ABCs, you'll be fine with this. Now we'll start out with taking a look at the circle of fifths in somewhat of an unconventional manner. And in the next video, we'll take a look at creating chord progressions in a major key. And then later on, we'll take a look at creating secondary dominants in a major key. And then in the last 2 videos, we'll take a look at creating chord progressions in a minor key, and then finally secondary dominants in a minor key. So let's get started by taking a closer look at the circle of fifths.
Now you probably have seen this chart before. They can be very useful if you understand what they are telling you and how to use them. Notice that in every key you'll see an associated key signature letting you know how many and which notes are sharp or flat in that key. But most musicians aren't formally trained and many can't read music, and that's perfectly fine. Many #1 hits have been written and performed by songwriters and artists that have never learned to read music. Most of us just pick up a guitar and bang away, or a keyboard, and we've learned a few chords and we've progressed along just fine. However, there are some things to learn about theory for those who want to take their playing and songwriting to the next level. In this video, we'll focus on those that are not formally trained and want to get more of their music. Now let's take a look at the circle of fifths in a little different format. I have a blank table pulled up here that we are going to fill in and identify every note in the major scale. Now this may seem like a daunting task. However, what you are going to notice right away is that a pattern is going to develop, and those patterns will apply to every key. What I have across the top are columns labeled 1 through 8. Those are the notes in a given key, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But we are not going to refer to them in that way. We are just going to refer to the number as it relates to the scale degree. So let's start with the key of C. It's the one key with no sharps or flats, and it's very popular with beginning piano players because it uses only the white keys. It's also a popular key for guitar players as well. So what are the notes in the key of C? So let's just recite the alphabet starting with C. I'm going to go over here to this left column, and we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So our musical alphabet stops at G, and then we have to start over with A, B, C. You'll notice a couple of things. The left column in blue that I have here is the root note, or the tonic, as we'll call it, and it's the key that we're playing in. And then the 8th note is just an octave above that. So it goes from C to C. This spans 1 octave. One thing you should know about this scale, because it's going to apply to every scale we build here, is the note relationship to one another in terms of whole steps and half steps. Simply put, a half step is the next adjacent note. So if you look at this piano here, you move to the next note, whether it's a black key or a white key. And on the guitar, it's just the next fret. So for example here, if I go from this C to C sharp, this white to black key, that's a half step. If I go from this white key to this white key, that would be E to F, that's a half step. So it's just the next adjacent note. A whole step just skips a note. So if I am on this F key here, and then I skip this black key and go to the next white key, which would be G, that's a whole step. If I'm on this E note and I want to go up a whole step, I would have to skip this F and go to this black key then, because that's a whole step. So understanding that relationship is important. On a guitar fretboard, you just skip a fret to make it a whole step. and just the next fret for a half step. So let's label these now. We'll put a W for a whole step and an H for a half step. So it's whole step, half, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. Now that relationship is between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, etc. That's going to apply to every key that we build here in a major scale. And I want you to notice something. I colored this for a reason, because the relationship between these notes in how we start, which is whole step, half, is exactly the way we finish, whole step, half. And it's separated by a whole step in the middle, which is the 5th degree. So just take note of that. Whole step, half, whole step, half at the beginning and the end, separated by a whole step. And the other thing I want you to make note of, this is very important, is the only place in the major scale that we have a half step is between the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and the 8. So please make a note of that. Now, to build on our circle of fifths, we need to start with the 5th in the key of C, which is G. So we just go up to the 5th degree here, and we find out what note that is, and then we put it over here in the left column. And now we just spell the musical scale just like we did C. We just go along there. What comes after G? You can see it's A. So we start over here, and we go A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now we make one exception here. On this 7th degree, we take this note right here and we put a sharp on it. So this is going to be F sharp. Now we're going to continue along with this progression or this pattern of taking the 5th degree, which in this case in G is D, and put it over here. And so please note that all of the notes that I'm going to put here are the same notes in the previous scale, and then we're just going to sharpen the 7th degree. So we have D, and then we have E, and then this is F sharp because F sharp was up here, so we need the F sharp down here. I got a double E there. So D, E, F, and then we want G, A, B, C, and remember I said that has to be sharp because every 7th degree we're going to sharpen, and then we end with D. I told you this is going to be simple. So A is the 5th degree. We're going to put it over here, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and you guessed it, it's G sharp, and then A. Okay, so what's going on here is we are adding a sharp every time we go down a 5th here. We are adding an extra sharp. So notice we only have one sharp here, F sharp. And then when we go to the next 5th, we have 2 sharps. And then 3 sharps. So guess what's going to happen next? You're right. It's going to be 4 sharps. Now I'm going to go offline and fill those in, and I'll be right back. I went ahead and filled in the rest of these. Now just the 5th of A is E, so I put the E over here. And just put the same notes in there. Again, the 7th degree sharp. Went over here to the B, the 5th degree. Put the B over here. And continued along, adding a sharp. So now you can see on this E line here, this E scale, I have 4 sharps. And then when I get to B, I have 5 sharps. And then next is F sharp. I have 6. Now, at some point, we have to go from sharp keys to flat keys. And you'll notice I made these red because they're the same note. F sharp and G flat are the same. So this is our conversion point where we're going to convert from sharp keys now to flat keys. Now let me just go over here in this column, and I want to label how many sharps and flats I have. So in the key of C, there's 0, and then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and then 6. The key of G flat has 6 flats. The rest of these are all sharp. Let's talk about G flat now, because now we're going to continue on with the same process by taking the 5th of G flat and put it over here and just continue on. I want you to notice one thing here. G flat has all flat keys, or all flat notes, except for F. Notice when we started, when we got away from C, C had no sharps or flat. When we went to G, the only one that was sharp was the F note. Now the only one that's natural is the F note. So now we're kind of like headed in the other direction. So as you probably guessed, we're going to take away one flat as we go down. And as you can imagine, the circle of fifths, we started with C. As we go down this column, we're going to end in C. So that gets us full circle, right? I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of this in offline, and when I come back, we'll talk about how the progression continues here. So I filled in the rest of our flat keys, and I just continued on with D flat is the 5 of G flat, put it here, and then copied the exact same notes except for this 7th degree right here. Instead of it being C flat, it's C natural, and then again took the 5 of D flat, which is A flat, put it here, continued on, G is natural, and so on and so forth. And so what we have here now is we have 6 flats going to 5 flats, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, and then we're back to where we started, the C, and it has 0. So there you have the circle of fifths. So notice in this left column we have the circle of fifths, starting with C and ending in C. We have 12 notes in our chromatic scale, so we've done every degree. So we can go along here and label these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This F sharp and this G flat are the same, so we're just going to label that 7, 8, 9. And then we have, skipped one, 10, 11, and 12, and then we're back to C. So there's our 12 tones in our chromatic scale, and we have completed the circle of fifths. Now, I told you that this left column was the circle of fifths. That's true, but I also want you to notice that every other column is also the circle of fifths. So if I go into the second column, A is the 5 of D, E is the 5 of A, and so on. So it doesn't matter where I go. D sharp is the 5 of G sharp. And so you see the relationship here between every note in this circle of fifths. So there's a definite pattern here. I mean, and the more you look at this, the more relationships you'll find on working this out yourself. So I encourage you to sit down one day, and you can do this with just a piece of paper and just write it out like I've done here, and just work it out for yourself. And the more you look at this, the more you'll see the intervals and the keys and how they relate to one another. And this is really going to help you with your building block of music and help you get better with the understanding of theory. And this is just really, really simple first grade math. We just counted from 1 to 8 and did our ABCs only up to G. So really simple stuff. You just have to work with it a little bit, and you'll get a good grasp of it. The other thing I want you to notice is that, for example, if we're playing in the key of C, when I'm building my chord progressions, these are the chords that are available to me in a given key. So for example, there's a C chord, a D chord, and an E chord, and we'll talk about that when we get into building our chord progressions in the next video. But it doesn't matter where I go here. If I want to play in the key of E, My chord is an F sharp chord, a G sharp chord, an A chord, a B chord, and so on. So there's so many different ways you can use this. And once you get familiar with it, you'll kind of have it in your head. And if not, you can just print this out and then have it available to you, and you'll find all kinds of uses for it. So there you have it, the circle of fifths. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment and subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.